too, it was kind of cool to read about a lot of this stuff and just kind of go, oh, wow, I didn't know, I didn't know that, or, how this had happened. So to me, it was very interesting. And obviously I love to learn and love to learn about, what I'm doing and who I'm representing in our mission, obviously, and carrying it out at the YWCA. I want to start a little bit off on the national history, only because it obviously started, in 1858, and kind of go from there and how it evolved into Van Wert and everything. And I don't know, like I said, how much people know about the whole national YWCA and how that even started. But I think from what I have found, it's very interesting. It actually began in the early 1855, actually over in England, where there were two groups. It was efforts by women to improve the situation of fellow women that have been brought by, it was called the Industrial Revolution, as a result of the Crimean War. What they did, these two leaders, one was a general female transitioning institute that was founded. The other one was an organization that was influenced from a world organization of women. What they had done is eventually those two organizations came together, and that's how they merged under the Young Women's Christian Association, which, like I said, was back in England in 1855. From there, we saw a flight of women working that started in the United States, and that started to be recognized around that time. Women's place in the homes were changing as a result of the development of the industries. Not only did it progress connected with the making of clothes become factory work, but laundry work and many forms of cooking became factory processes as well. Self-supporting women followed their traditional female pursuits into factories, bakeries, and laundries. To get to these places of work, women had to leave their homes to establish themselves into a big city. Working endless hours in the cities were long, and working conditions were difficult. The women would work, and then they would have no place to relax or even opportunities to do any recreational activities. As it began in England, a lot of campaigns were starting to improve with the working of women's lives and conditions in the United States, to where in New York in 1858, Mrs. Marshall O. Roberts formed a prayer union circle, which in a few months became a ladies' Christian association. They had 35 members that stated objects of this association, aside from prayer, was to labor for the temporary, moral, and spiritual welfare of the self-supporting young women. With that being said, in 1858 is where New York started its first, for the United States, the YWCA, which was the Young Women's Christian Association. Kind of read you a little bit of that. I'm going back and forth with all of this stuff. The YWCA is known as the oldest and largest women's membership organization, as it epitomizes a story of vision, faith, struggle, devotion to principles, and unswerving belief that women are important agents of change. From starting it in 1858 in New York City, it addresses the unspeakable labor, health, and housing conditions facing young women and girls in the city. They formed the first organization in the country for women by women, with the mission to empower women and girls and enable them to develop their fullest potential. The organization has a pioneer in such areas as race relation, labor union representation, women's health initiatives, and cultural sensitivity training for international leaders. The first YWCA was a boarding house for women and girls adjusting to new urbanized lifestyles of the Industrial Revolution. As women's economy and social roles changed, other YWCAs started to spring up around the country, and we saw that in the late 1868 is actually when Boston started its YWCA, so the second one in the United States. They started providing housing, job training, advocacy, health, physical education, and community involvement aimed at developing leadership, self-confidence, and self-worth. What was interesting to me was not only discovering a lot of that, but also really looking back, and I'll get to where we are now, of how obviously how society has changed and how we've had to evolve and, you know, kind of fit those needs of society, but how the YWCA mission has really strived to keep those morals from when it started back in 1958, as far as empowering women in the leadership roles and making things available for women and girls within our community. So in the New York and Boston associations like those started, we saw a lot of other YWCAs popping up in the areas. A lot of them were actually, it began around 1871. A lot of YWCAs were organized in colleges and universities. In the United States alone, more than 2 million people participated as members in programs which occurred in more than 5,500 locations, including whether it was from building center operations, residence centers, camps, colleges, and universities, or even if it was just a YWCA club that popped up, which I found just that number just to me was astonishing, because I will tell you what we're looking at now of what the number of YWCAs that we do have in the United States alone. As they started popping up, I found a little bit of a history timeline, and I thought this was really interesting. In actually 1889, the first African-American YWCA branch opened in Dayton, Ohio. In 1906, the YWCA was the first organization to introduce the positive health concept and sex education in all health programming. 1907, YWCA of the USA was incorporated in New York City. I'm kind of like skipping around, but I have all this information if you'd like to look at it. I think I would read year by year to you. In 1938, the YWCA in Columbus, Ohio, established a desegregation dining facility and is cited by the Columbus Urban League for a courageous step forward in human relations. Trying to think of also what else. That leads us to the year 2008. YWCA celebrated its 150 years of service with the launch of its own campaign. The campaign focused on igniting a new generation of 22 million young women aged 18 to 34 that inspired them to get involved with important issues facing women in the country today. In 2013, today over 2 million people participate in YWCA programs at more than 1,300 sites across the United States, which is surprising because it brings back to the next number I'm going to tell you. Today, we actually see there are 225 YWCA organizations in the United States. In Ohio alone, we have 15 YWCAs. The closest ones to us are Dayton, Cincinnati, Hamilton, there's Akron, there's Columbus, Ohio, Toledo. I'm trying to think. There's different ones. I guess just to name a few. But for our state, 15 is actually there. That's quite a few numbers that we do have in Ohio. We do pay a national membership requirement fee, and in order for the YWCA USA, for us to be affiliated with the YWCA USA, each YWCA is autonomous in its own incorporation, but we are responsible for adhering to the YWCA USA affiliation requirements and engaging in collective YWCA efforts. Each organization is under charitable rules of, we are all separate 501c3s. Compliance with membership requirements is critical to sustaining the YWCA's visibility, credibility, financial vitality, and national impact, and therefore is required in order for a local organization to be a member of the YWCA USA. Like I said, I found a lot of very interesting things, and I could probably go on and on about the national, but I kind of wanted just to give you an overview of how it all started and where it came from, and obviously through the change of what we're looking at as far as on a national level, and I can try to answer any questions when that may be. And I did pull a lot of articles out and have copies for you guys that you can kind of show and look at any of that stuff. But going back to, obviously, the YWCA of Van Wert and how we all started. So the year was 1913, gave considerable consideration to the Christian Association spirit in the city of Van Wert. During that year, Reverend A.I. Lines, a young minister and pastor of the Christian Church of Van Wert, and Ernest I. Antrim collaborated in the preparation of a series of articles on the advantages of community Christian associations. And these articles, and I'm assuming you can find them, appeared in the Van Wert Bulletin. Toward the end of the year, 1913, Mr. George H. Marsh became so interested in the subject of providing Van Wert with a combination of a YMCA and a YWCA that Mr. Lines resigned from his pastorate and accepted a call from Mr. Marsh to give his whole time and commitment to the undertaking and handling of this preliminaries looking to the securing of such an institution. Mr. Marsh, at this time, he made no definite proposition of the amount of money that he was going to give, but it was to believe that it was going to be a pretty handsome amount of money. After considerable progress had been made looking into this, Mr. Marsh planned when on the 8th of January in 1914, Mr. John Strandler died, leaving for a YMCA for a Van Wert a sum of which finalized the amount of to almost $100,000. This brought an end to the efforts of Mr. Marsh for a combination of such institution. Since the will of Mr. Strandler made ample provisions for a separate institution for boys and men, of course these steps were once taken to effect of the organizations and went from there. However, Mr. Marsh was not going to give up on any efforts of that. He had still ideas for providing Van Wert a young women's Christian association. He ended up moving forward with that, and Mr. Marsh ended up contributing $100,000 to start the YWCA. And we always known it as the house that George built. And I did make copies. I just found this very interesting for everybody to take, so I won't read you through the whole entire article, but it's really interesting. He did put a team of a committee together that they started to erect the building and institution. He was very adamant on he wanted a 3-story building. And that's why we have our 3-story building that you see today. And he wanted to make it a safe haven where girls from the farm could come into the city, as they would call it, and have a place to live and have a place to learn and work and be housed there. The first classes of the YWCA included French, German, basketry, dressmaking, bookkeeping, roller skating, which I'm sure happened years later, but swimming and just basic learning of any homemaking situations. 25 women were residing at the residence at the YWCA at that time. There, what I was going to say, and this other article I found at that time. There were 1,500 adults, members that belonged to the YWCA, and it still kept going and meeting the needs of women and children with other programs that were taking through them. Our YWCA mission, and I wanted to read you this, and I know if we ever see our mission, this was actually the mission years ago that they had, and it's a USA. Everybody has the same mission, but it did change, and I don't know the exact date, but it did change through the time. But the Young Women's Christian Association of the United States of America is a women's membership involvement nourished by its roots in the Christian faith and sustained by many beliefs and values. Strengthened by diversity, the association draws together members who strive to create opportunities for women, growth, leadership, and power in order to attain a common vision: peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. The association will thrust its collective powers toward the elimination of racism whenever it exists and by any means necessary, which is a very long mission. Today, our mission of the YWCA is to empower women, eliminate racism, and promote peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So in a nutshell, they kind of lowered it down and made it a lot simpler in that effect. And like I said, leading up to where we are now, we've had a lot of changes within the YWCA. Obviously, like I said earlier, with our economy, things are changing, and we've kind of had to make those changes to fit how can we serve our community and how can we reach out to people that need that help and that we can provide that. As of now, we do have a youth enrichment programs, which we have our summer food program and we have our after school program. And we also have, which, keeping in history, we do still have our housing programs. Those include our permanent supportive housing, which is exactly what it sounds. It is permanent and supportive. We have 5 rooms on our 3rd floor that women can stay in. They just have to have some sort of they either have a physical, mental, or drug and alcohol abuse, but they're free. They can stay there as long as they want. There's no limit on when they can leave, but they're there just more for the moral support. They do some of our programs, they get involved, a lot of them work, but they're there for that support, and we always have a waiting list for that program. One of our other programs is our transitional housing program. We do have 2 houses in the community. If you're unaware, we have the one right next door to us, which I think a lot of people still refer to as the sister house. Which was what its intentions were. We don't consider it that anymore. It's just one of our houses that we do have. And our other house was the old, the women's club that they generously gave to us. And we can house up to 4 homeless families in those houses. And that can be anything. That can be a man and his kids. It could be a husband and a wife and kids. It could be whatever you consider a family unit, we can put in there. And we unfortunately always have a waiting list for that too. I wish we could say we didn't, but there's always that need in Van Wert County. And we're at least fortunate we can take at least 4 families in that and help them out. And they are involved in our programs and everything like that. And they actually can stay in till a year. So they try to, our housing department works with them, whether that's financially, emotionally, getting them going, getting them back up on their feet, and getting them stable to go out and live into the community, from what they had before. The next one is we have a long-term domestic violence shelter. So we are not an emergency shelter for that. Crisis care actually is the emergency shelter. After they're there, 90 days, they're referred to from them, and they're there as long as they need be. And we see, a lot of people think mostly women, but we do see men in that program that come through. We also have a 24-hour hotline that we can assist and house sexual assault, human trafficking victims as well. And I'd like to say that doesn't get used, but it does. And we see that a lot. But like I said, to be able to help people come out of situations and be able there to provide them for support and shelter is, something we do honor ourselves on and like to, be there for. We do still have our pool, which a lot of you guys, I'm assuming, are used to I can remember from when I was really little, that pool down and you walked into the, things. That is no longer there. That is actually one of our fitness centers that we hold yoga and everything in. But we do have our pool that is a therapy pool. It is hydraulic floor, and we can move it up and down, and especially for swim lessons and stuff like that, we can, with age and stuff, adapt for the kids. And it is heated, so it's usually 84 to 86, 88 degrees. And we do have a 24-hour fitness center that we have in a lot of fitness classes. We do hold various events in our gym. And our gym, if you've not been up there in a while, looks exactly the same. A lot of people are like, what this is, but you know what? We like it. It's the character of it and stuff. We do have our rendezvous room, which I do have some old pictures up here, if you can look at, which I think are really cool. They used to have the kind of like, okay, they used to be able to come and have food and stuff, and you can still see where the rails used to be into there. And that was actually filled in. We do have a walk-in freezer and fridge. That was where that was, which for us is very beneficial with our summer food kids, because we'll see on an average 120 to 130 kids a day through our summer food program. And on average, we'll see about 350 kids a summer. And I'd like to say that number would go down, but until we end poverty in Van Wert, we're going to have that. But it's not just for lower income families as well. I know a couple of my kids went there this summer and they loved it. But it's something the kids can get away from, something to do. It's 9 weeks. They swim 3 days a week. They get breakfast. They get lunch. And we'll be actually starting our 22nd year for the summer food program. So, and that's awesome. And, we're trying to reach out to as many kids as we can, and parents and stuff, and, welcome them in and give them a place to come, just even if it's only from 8 to 1, but just something to do, and be involved. So we're really thankful that we do have that walk-in freezer and fridge, because that is very helpful. And so I brought, like I said, a bunch of those up there, but our rendezvous room is, I love that room, and I think it's a really cool room. We did actually just paint it, and kind of spruced it up a little bit, and just did all that. So we did just celebrate our 100 year last year, and I don't know if people got to come, but we did have a big gala up there with the Festival of Trees event and everything. And then we had an amazing turnout and had a great, it was kind of one of our fundraisers. And just to be able to open the building up and, have people come in and everything like that was really cool. And people who've never even been in there, that live in our community and never have been in our building, are missing out. And I always welcome people in, and, I love giving tours, and if there's ever a time we can do a tour, I love that. But the funniest thing to me is a gentleman had walked in our building and asked if it was a library. I don't know where he got that, but we were like, no, it's not, So it's just funny that people just still don't know, what we do up at the YWCA. And, we do, a lot of people ask, like, our doors, if you do come in, we do have them secured. And that's not only, and that happened about, I want to say, before my time, so it was about maybe 6, 7 years ago. And a lot of people ask why, and the reasoning is for that is because we do have our victims and upstairs. And not only that, if we would get somebody in there and somebody would come, that we don't know, I'm the first one to go. So, and Vicki at the front desk. So I'm okay with them being locked, because if something would happen, it's not only for that, but our security purposes. And when we do have our kids up there, we want to keep them safe. But our doors are always open and welcome. Another program we do have, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, and we have continued, is our travel program. So Gene Owens, who recently retired last fall, we have continued that, and those have been going out. So that's something too. We've tried to keep going, and keep things kind of as they are up there. So I'm trying to think what else I can talk about. Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay. So silver sneakers. We do have silver sneakers now. And we do once a month, at the beginning of the month, we do a luncheon. Anybody is welcome. It's free of charge. Actually, the Van Wert County Hospital, we have actually partnered with them, and they provide the meal. And we kind of go back and forth with them. We find speakers, they'll find speakers, and they're usually really, really good. Teresa Shaloy has taken over that program, and she actually just became certified in Silver Sneakers Fitness. So she does teach some classes up there. I believe they are Monday and Wednesdays at 10 o'clock, and you probably will see some more popping up because, like I said, she just took her classes and became certified. So we're really excited about that. You know, and know that, like I said, I know a lot of people go back and forth with, well, the YM has it, and you guys, you can use it at either facility. You can go there one day, and you can come here. We try to make it so we're not on the same day as they are. Our lunches are different days. So I'm thinking if I could get a free lunch at both places, I would use that. Or, you know, you can go and work out and, you know, just, you know, meet new people or go back and forth. You know, we welcome anybody up there, and we do take Silver Sneakers, and we're really excited just to have that program and be able to offer that as well. So, and I know, going back to, I know a lot of people ask me, well, why don't you combine with the YMCA? You know, and I'm not here to, you know, talk about like, you know, why we are not together, but one is we have two totally different missions. And so it would be very difficult for us to combine with them and do that. And two, the nice thing I like about, I know with the size of Van Wert, I think it's cool that we offer both a YM and a YWCA. You know, we can serve totally different demographics in Van Wert, and they can be the same. You know, my kids go up to the YM and shoot baskets and stuff like that. You know, but maybe some people, or especially women, aren't comfortable going up there and working out. And we do have our fitness center that they can come in and be welcomed in and everything like that. So, you know, I love to get together and collaborate a lot with them as far as that goes. But, you know, as far as trying to combine, I think it would be very hard. And I don't know how I could stick some of my, we call them women or, you know, residents. It would just be very difficult to do. So, anyways, I don't know if you have questions, if any of that makes sense. Yes?
And the YW is required to have residents, or you lose your...
If our YW is required to have residents or not. You know what? Not necessarily. Every YW is different. I will tell you there's a YWCA on the campus in Chicago, and it is strictly for young girls. They don't really have residents per se, but as long as we are, yeah, as
I understood that Van Wert's is when Mr. Marsh did this, it was required.
yeah,
So,
well, and
I was on the board years ago.
yeah, and you know what? And that's with the YWCA USA has all changed. As long as we are under the requirements of what they're wanting us to do, and there's 3 tiers that we have to follow, being young girls, young women and girls' health. The racism part is a big stand of that, and a lot of it is advocacy. So. But a lot of I do know some Ys that do not have them. So I wouldn't say we would lose that for sure. I don't see us ever not having that, so that being an issue, but we're always gonna have residents, that's for sure. And that could have been it years ago. But I would say now, just from all the national conferences I've been to, they've never mentioned that if we wouldn't, they would take our membership away, but I hope not. Yes.
In those houses.
Yeah.
Is that free to them?
Mm-hmm.
That is totally free?
Yep. It is totally free. Obviously, we do have grants. We are grant funded by those programs. We have, you know, by federal and state grants. United Way is a huge funder of ours, as is Van Wert County Foundation. So we are fortunate to have those grants and those organizations that do help us with that. I'd like to say that helps 100%, but that's not always the case. But yes, housing is, yeah, they are free to stay there. They do participate in a lot of our programs as far as the housing goes, like as programs that they offer classes. They get checked on, and making sure they're, obviously take care of the house, not breaking not breaking any rules or doing anything like that. But like I said, they have a year to live there. So they have to be out there trying to get up on their feet and going and whatnot. So, because unfortunately, like I said, we do have a waiting list. So,
Do you anticipate maybe expanding that and having another home down the road?
I would like to say if we could fund that, that would be amazing. Not in the near future, just because it is a lot of work right now that we have. And we just did a renovation on our Washington Street house. It was almost about 2 years ago because it was right when I was coming in here. But they used to be able to only have one family up there, but they were able to do, we got a big grant that we were able to kind of partition that off so we could house 2 families in there. So, but yeah, there's a lot of work involved in that. So, yes.
It's, thank you, and it's a
Yeah.
blessing that that you got the silver sneakers.
Yes,
Because
yes.
there was some people that feel uncomfortable about the other, and it's not, and the girl that you have for the swimming fitness is
Oh,
super.
Caitlin,
I
yes,
love
yes,
her.
yes, she is great.
She is really,
Thank
really
you.
good and stuff, and it's just that, I appreciate it and stuff, and I think that's, with you working with it, I heard that you worked to get it.
Yes,
too,
yes.
and stuff. And like it
Yep.
said, it's very rare that they have both.
Yeah.
Right, and stuff,
Yep.
and thank you, but it was really, and I go both, back and
Yeah,
forth both
yep,
places.
yep.
But right now, I really like the
Well,
swimming,
good.
that
Yeah,
Caitlin.
thank
She's
you.
really good.
Yeah, Caitlin does a really
yes.
good job. She does our fitness in the morning classes, and she's just,
But I can also see that there's some of the other silver sneakers, the older one, that, like, from the YM, that would be offended over her, think she's too much.
Oh, yeah,
But I love her.
Yeah.
I want
she's
more.
got
I
a lot of energy. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's really good.
this is what I want out
Yep,
of it.
yep.
And some of the other ones don't want
Yep,
that out of
yep,
it.
yep.
But that's what I want out of, and
Yep.
I really like hers.
Yep,
her and
yep,
stuff.
yeah. She does a phenomenal job, and we are thankful to have her. And yeah, she's very energetic,
Yes, she
and
is.
and that's
I like that
okay.
she-
So
I like that she's on deck. Some of them do it
Yeah.
inside, and some of them at the other Y was upset because they would be on deck. Now I like them.
Yeah.
Up there.
Yep.
You can see them better.
Well, good.
Some of them don't like that.
Good.
But I
Yep.
like that
Well,
she's
good.
that and stuff.
Good.
So,
Yeah, I think personal preference.
yes,
So
well,
yeah, but we are. Yeah,
I'm
we're happy to
glad
have
we
Caitlin.
the
Yep.
two options.
Yeah, like I said, we're excited that we do have that and are able to offer that as well. So it just kind of makes it nice and more opportunities. So yes,
You said there's 15 YWs in Ohio.
yes.
How does that match to other states?
I looked that up. I could have printed something off. We probably have one of the higher numbers of each
'Cause I would
state.
think if there's 220 nations.
Yes, yeah, there's 225, which that number unfortunately has dropped off. And even in Indiana, Fort Wayne does have a Y. Now, the Y in Fort Wayne, they actually just built a brand new building. We went over there toward that a few weeks ago or so. Beautiful facility. Very fortunate that they were able to get that. But once again, they only do strictly they do domestic violence, any emergency crisis center. They don't have a fitness center. They don't do any of that stuff. They don't do a lot of the youth activities that we do. Theirs is strictly housing. And that's kind of the cool thing about YWCAs all around. They're all unique and they're all different in their own ways. But they have one, Kokomo, Indiana. There is another one. I'm trying to think, and I'd say we have probably quite a few more than a lot of other states. So, yeah, I'll have to look that up for sure. I was just worried about Ohio.
Because there's only 200.
Yeah, there's.
That seems, because I would think that would mean 2 in every state. So
Yeah,
200.
there are a few states that do not have, any YWs. So, yeah. So, and to think that, you know, Van Wert, we have a YW and a YM, I mean, is really cool,
Did
so.
he leave money, Marsh, for the Y to keep on going?
He did,
Yeah.
and it actually is in, I can read that to you. I do have it, I printed a bunch of that off, because it did say he left a certain amount of money,
Okay.
and then once those funds had run out, and it's really interesting, like I said, I can read it to you if you want.
it's all right.
But what they did was they started, you know, another organization to raise money and stuff like that. So for so many years, he did leave money for that to continue like that. So, and like I said, what is nice is we do have Van Wert County Foundation, which we do have, you know, that set into where we are given money from endowments and stuff like that that we can get, or the United Way. I mean, the United Way is huge. We are very fortunate to get what we get from the United Way. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Outside of the county foundation
Uh-huh.
endowments, did Marsh leave any farmland or other assets you still control at all?
Not to us. No, no, not to us. If he does, I don't know about him. So no, no.
I don't know if this is a request or a question, but you had a recumbent trainer in the fitness room.
Uh-huh,
It was called a Magnum, I guess that's the brand name.
uh-huh.
But it automatically, you could set it for certain programs and it would alternatively add or reduce the tension.
Oh,
Any
I
chance of getting another one of
Oh,
those?
I don't know. I'll have to look, see how much those are.
Because I
He
go to-
likes that.
I go to the YM and I kind of looking around myself on that new step.
Oh, yeah,
But I
yeah.
like that one because it automatically would.
I don't, yeah, I'd have to look at that. I know we're, you know, we are limited in space in the fitness center. And JJ McLean is actually our health and wellness coordinator, which she is phenomenal. And we just finished painting that over there and have changed a lot of that stuff. So I know she's trying to get that up and going. So I don't know. Unless you're willing to fund that, then.
That's what I just asked him.
If I were willing to fund it.
Yeah,
I
you have it at your house. I know. So, yes,
Now, do you control your own fitness, or is it still?
Nope. we do.
You
Yep.
do now?
Yep, we have it now. Yes, Peak used to have that, and they are no longer there. We've had it for about 2 years now. So it's owned by us. We have our own. We don't really call them memberships. We call them partners. You're a partner in this journey of life with us. So just because we do have membership, people are members of the YWCA. So, but we do have partnerships that we do have for that. You can either do a monthly, you can do a yearly, membership partnership for that fitness side of it. We do have it for the aquatic side as well. We do punch cards, as if you want to do classes or you want to come up and you don't want to do a monthly membership, or just hole punch your card, and you can do it that way. Or if you have a monthly membership, we give you a key fob. And if you are a Silver Sneakers too, you do get a key fob as well. But like I said, our fitness center is 24-hour access, and on the one side, you can access it 24 hours a day. So, but yes, we do have memberships up there and do work that up there. And like I said, JJ, I think is going to plan to have a big open house for that, because we just repainted it all and just trying to get it, kind of fresh and updated and stuff like that. So, yeah. Yes.
One question about the building. You've been there for 2 years now, for how many years?
I have myself personally. In October will be 2 years that I've been there.
So when you took over, how did you find the state of affairs with the building on the exterior? Has it always been, it seems like it's been maintained pretty well over the decades, which is kind of surprising. Maybe,
Yeah.
But you have big projects pending?
Well, there's always something happening, unfortunately. With a 100-year-old building, there's always stuff. However, thankfully, which I'm going to miss him, Adam Reese, who is a Van Wert downtown, he was the director of that. He was amazing and helped get a grant, and he did a lot of the work. It was I sent them in everything. We did a lot of estimates. So to our outside of our building where our pillars are, and literally the whole, I don't know if you can see that. So like it was all this front, our pillars, and anything, it was the porch. We had a leak somewhere going in the women's locker room. It was leaking down somewhere in here. Adam, they were doing a bunch of, I don't know if you probably saw a lot of the stuff downtown. They were working on, buildings and historical buildings and getting all of that. So we were fortunate enough to be approved for this. And it was a $40,000 project. But we had them come in, and it was an entire restoration and there was all the cracks and everything else. But we had the company Trisco out of Lime, Ohio. They came and redid it all. We found the leak that was going into there, but they sealed, and I won't use all the right terminologies, but they sealed all of those and did all of that. So that was a huge project that since I've been there, that has been able to be done in which it needed done. And it just looks really nice. They were able to paint. I would like to say probably our roof and stuff like that, we haven't had any major issues, but that would probably be something in the near future we're going to have to look at. We also have an old boiler room. If you would really love to come and see that, I invite you. It's a little scary down there. But our boiler is, that's just something sometimes we're always having to deal with as far as that goes. As far as inside, especially in our gym area along the top part of it, that definitely needs redone and something done to that. There's just the little things up, in the ceiling. Now, our second and third floor have been kept up pretty well with the residents up there. And it's called VOCA, which is one of our grants for housing, is a huge grant up there. And we were able to get a really big grant for our second floor because we did not have a handicap bathroom up there. And technically we are supposed to have one. So we were able to get a grant for that and access a handicap bathroom upstairs. They redid the whole bathroom area, tore down a wall, able to get it in there. But yeah, I would love to say it's 100%, but there's always something that's going to be, yeah.
It's still hot water, heat
Mm-hmm.
in the whole building?
Uh,
There's no modern furnaces or anything ever been put in?
no, nope,
Wow.
nope. We have our one boiler, and it's either on or off, and you're either hot or you're hot. So, that's how it is. And it's like we actually just shut it off Friday because it gets hot in there. Like, it gets really hot in there.
Air conditioning, you only have small units.
Mm-hmm. I have one in my office, and there's a couple other people that have one in their office. But it gets really hot in there. And I always feel really bad for the kids in the summer. It stinks. And we have windows open, and they're like, it's hot, and it just is. Now, our fitness center is air conditioned because that part was built in the early 1980s. So that part is air conditioned as far as that goes. But the rest of the building it's hot. Now, we all kind of, we go with it because we do have our residents up there. So we like to keep them comfortable. And if we have babies and stuff like that, we really do have to watch out for that. So, but yeah, it's hot there in the summer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why people always laugh at us because they'll be like, we'll be there in the winter and we'll have like sundresses on, and they'll come in and they're like, what are you guys doing? We're like, we're hot. It's just because it does get hot in there. But yeah, our boiler is just, it's a boiler. Mm-hmm. It's a boiler.
Just a quick question.
Uh-huh.
The property you own
Mm-hmm.
is the building, the house next door,
Mm-hmm.
the old tenant, the property out back.
Yes, because we have our playground back there. Plus, so there's the playground, and then we have that other lot, and then actually across the street we have that parking lot. There's the two parking lots like right in front. Now where the Salvation Army is, it's right in there. But we do have that. That's our lot as well.
That's the extent of the property
Yes.
owned by the.
Right there. And then we do own the house. It's the old women's club house on Washington Street. So, yep. Yes, it's a lot.
And then are you the endowments from the foundation, are they assigned to specific things that you have to comply with, or you have freedom to use those funds?
If they're restricted or not. Usually, so when we do sorry, I just did the United Way grant, and that was due, and that was like, so I'm thinking United Way, which Van Wert County Foundation is coming up May 19th. I have that in my head. So I do fill out for each program. Like when I ask them for money specifically, I do give them a certain amount of like, whether it's for our DV or if it's from our youth enrichment. And then whatever amount they would come back is specific towards that program. So yeah, we do put it towards those programs as far as that way. As far like United Way and Van Wert County Foundation. Now there are a few, there is one they would give us, and it is non-restrictive, so we can kind of put that in a general fund. But mostly it is towards what program we are specifically asking for. Donor-wise, sometimes we do get restricted donors that has specific requests towards, they want this to go to the youth enrichment, or they want this to, and we keep it that way as well. So, but yeah, usually it's towards what programs we ask them for. So, but
Does the building have any designation at state level, federal level, historical?
You know what? I found actually, not to my knowledge, but I did find a paper when I was going through all this stuff that they tried to send into the historical, and I didn't see anything else on it, and I don't know if, like I said, from my understanding, this was years ago. If anybody ever followed through on that, it was a basic letter going, can you give me information on, where do I to get this? But I've never seen anything like that. Not to say I have a lot of searching to do. As when they asked me, and there's just archives on end of history of this. If you would ever like to come up and I'd love for anybody to do that.
My next question.
Yeah.
The boys' Y had a similar thing. Larry Bowersock had been
Yeah.
there forever.
Yep.
And his old office was a closet basically.
Yeah.
In those days. No one had went in there for years, and when they finally did, there was just stuff piled in it. The history had been crammed in there.
Yeah.
And with all the different, as many people as involved with the management of the
We
is it pretty organized? Is it in a closet?
Yes, it is yes, they're in files. We have them. Actually, when we had our 100-year anniversary, we went through a lot of it, and like some of these pictures we found, and we actually found a lot of really cool ones, and they're actually hanging up in our parlor up at the Y, because we had found them. I'm like, these are too cool not to hang up. And at that time, I think there was some pictures of pretty flowers, and not that they weren't pretty, but I'm like, I felt we needed to have pictures of, the Y and the years and how things have gone. So we do have a lot of those. We framed them and put them up there. But we did pulled a lot of stuff out when we were going through that. But I can probably tell you there's a lot more. So.
It was never really pitched, as far as you can tell.
No.
Kept intact.
No, nothing is pitched up there.
And do you have anyone that scanned it?
No, not to my knowledge. No. Yeah, not to my knowledge. And, and I would love if I had more time to definitely go through all this. And, what I did now is, is overwhelming in a lot. But, I'm always open to having anybody. I'd love for somebody to come up and kind of go through that and put it on something like that. For me, I think that would be really cool to do, especially when people ask about that or ask, because like I said, I'm finding stuff and there's, one folder was like this with like, just here you go, and it's like, well, what, and so it's just going through looking at all of that and, just going, well, what is this? And trying to find all of that out. So there is a lot of that. But to me, it's very interesting. I don't have a lot of time to do it. And I wish I did. I'm still trying to figure things out now, how to run it up there. So yeah, but yeah, these pictures, are really cool. A lot of them that we have found. So just trying to display those is one step we're taking. So, any other questions? I don't feel like I'm Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming and listening. Yeah.